Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I'm really excited to talk to you about bossing your social media. I want to introduce you to 5 of the key fundamentals that will really help you up level and kind of increase the power and effectiveness of your social media. So, who am I? I'm Fiona. I'm founder of Boss Your PR and the PR Spotlight. I am a PR and visibility coach and expert working with small businesses, entrepreneurs to get themselves and their businesses visible. It is a competitive climate out there in every respect, so you need to really kind of be able to harness your secret sauce, what makes you special. So, that's what I work with businesses on doing. So, today, as I said, I'm going to support you in terms of mastering social media and really making the most of it to stand out from the crowd. And I'm going to introduce you to 5 key elements. So the first thing that I want to talk about is strategy. Being strategic kind of instills a little bit of fear sometimes. Actually, 1 in 4 businesses don't take a strategic approach to their social media marketing. So I don't want you to be one of those 1 in 4. I want you to really think about how you can have that forward-thinking vision to empower you and to really make you effective in any of the actions that you take with social media. It's so important because social media is the most defining tool that we have as businesses in terms of connecting with our audience. It allows us to do everything. It allows us to sell, it allows us to have conversations, it allows us to inspire, it allows us to educate, to empower, to give value. And I don't think there is any other tool that has quite so much scope as social media. So being strategic will allow you to set the goalposts, will allow you to really be effective. And to be successful, you need to know where you're aiming, right? So you need to know where you are, and you need to know where you want to get to. And you need to have the actions that will get you there. So actually, it'd be really interesting to do a little show of hands as to how many of you are being strategic with your social media. Where do you know where you want to get to in terms of your goals with social media? Wow, God, it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming. Thank you for your honesty, guys. One, yay. Perfect. It doesn't cost you any money, no. Love it. Like that mentality. Brilliant, thank you. Everyone follow on social media. Well, they will now. Yeah. Amazing. It's free. Brilliant. It's free to give a follow. Great example of getting visible there. So thank you very much for sharing that. So I'm going to introduce you to eight elements of strategic thinking. The first one is a social media audit. Okay, so first we're going to look inwards on where we are with our social media and what we're doing with it. And then we're going to start to look outwards. But in terms of a social media audit, you need to look at what's working for you, what's not, and how we can make changes. So some of the key elements to consider when you're looking at doing a social media audit is a summary of your social media accounts, right? So what platforms are you on? You know, some of us have got an account on Twitter and we don't use it, or maybe we set up an account on TikTok with all the goodwill in the world and we don't use it, but they're there. What are we going to do with them? So be very clear about what accounts you have. And then maybe start to think about who are your most engaged followers. So maybe you can list out some of these people that you see popping up on your content a lot, because this could be the starting point of helping you build a customer avatar. So what are the commonalities between these most engaged users on your social media? Think about your engagement rate. So what kind of insight have you got there? And the stats and the tools that come with social media channels are great, right? For just getting this basic insight. And, you know, we don't have to be too prescriptive in this sense. It's just kind of building a bit of a picture. What type of content performs best for you? Is it behind the scenes? Is it video content? Video is this whole other thing, which we'll come on to. But what's working for you? What's not working for you? What time of day do you get the most engagement? when are people interacting with you? What are their patterns? And again, this is something that will help us when we come to looking at your customer avatar is what does their day look like? But when are they interacting with you? And how often are you currently posting on these channels? Okay? Build a picture of the current situation, and then we can work out how to embellish that picture. We can work out how to make it better. We can work out how to refine it. And, by doing more of what works, less of what doesn't, and by experimenting, okay? Experimentation is beautiful. You don't know if something's going to work until you try it, right? It might be video. You don't know if it's going to work until you try it. So you constantly want to be thinking of new ways that you can reach your audience as well, of new ways that you can make your social media that much more appealing and sort of enticing. So that is looking inward, right? That is building the picture of where your social media is at the moment. And then we want to look outward. Okay, we want to look at our competitors, right? And so once you've reviewed your own practices, we start kind of with this outward research. This isn't about comparison, it's about benchmarking. I see the two as very different, okay? Because I don't want you falling into traps of comparisonitis and, oh my God, look how well they're using social media. Oh my God, they must be throwing thousands of pounds at it and I could never compete. No. We're benchmarking. We're just seeing what's out there. So pick 4 to 5 competitors. A couple that are sort of similar in size, maybe one that's bigger, one that's smaller. And we want to kind of do that audit process, but we want to audit them, right? So ask yourself the following questions. How are your competitors using social media? What platforms are they on? How active are they on those platforms? What seems to be working well? What kind of follower numbers do they have? What is their engagement rate? And again, we don't have to be too prescriptive with this. You don't get their insights. So we're kind of from the outside looking in. But, what are some averages, right? So the average number of followers and the average engagement on a post. Let's have a look at some of those ratios. So how is their content performing? What is their highest performing content? Are they doing a lot of video? Is that working for them? Are they showing behind the scenes? Are they showing their design process? Are they introducing their new collections? What are they doing that is working for them? And how do they engage with their followers? Okay, so this is a key insight. How are they generating and fostering relationships with their audience? What calls to action are they using? What questions are they asking? How are they interacting on stories? How are they eliciting that engagement and that response back from their audience? Because that's the power of social media, right? It is, you're speaking to real people. Doesn't feel like it quite often, but it is about that human engagement. So how are they doing that? And what can you learn from that? And then point 3, okay, so this is where we start to get strategic. We start to take all of that juicy intel and we think about how we can leverage it. So we're going to think about your goals and objectives, right? So you need to know where your focus needs to go in order to be effective. Okay, if you are going to spend time and energy on social media, you need to know that you're working towards an end goal, right? Whether that is growing your audience, whether that is growing your sales, whether that is reaching new markets, whether that is connecting with new clients. But all of your activity needs to lead to that point. So to identify your social media goals, again, we're asking a lot of questions of ourselves on this session, okay? So I want you to think about these points. What are your overall business objectives? Okay? Because social media is a tool to help achieve your overall business objectives, to help achieve your overall success goals. So what are they and how can social media help? So how can social media align with those objectives? How can you use social media if your goal for this year is to, achieve sort of 10 to 12 new client relationships? How is social media helping you do that? Are you interacting with people on social media? Are you trying to have those genuine conversations? Are you creating the content that is going to appeal to potential clients? Because if the answer to all of those is no, then your social media is not going to get you to your business goals. Okay? So you've really got to think about how the two align. And also think about what does your audience expect from you, right? And this might become more apparent when you're doing that sort of benchmarking, not comparing, with your competitors. What are they delivering? How is their audience reciprocating? Therefore, what could they possibly be expecting from you in terms of content? What do you really want from your social media efforts? And here we can start to set some SMART goals, people. So there's no point in having a goal unless it's smart. So what does that mean? So we want it to be specific, okay? So what exactly are you aiming for? What exactly do you want to achieve? We want it to be measurable. Quantify it. How are you going to determine whether you've been successful in achieving your goal or not? You've got to put some markers on there, whether that's financial, whether that's follower numbers, whether that's engagement rate. Be tangible. And it's got to be actionable. So you've got to think about, how can I action this? How is it within my power to make this happen? So what actions are you going to need to take? So I want to increase my engagement rate by 50% by the end of June, and how I'm going to do this is by interacting with new followers, is by having conversations, is by increasing our call to action usage, is by asking those questions, is by using stickers in the question box and stories. So there are so many different ways that you can action that, but it's got to be, you've got to be tangible with these goals. And you want to be realistic. So is this achievable, right? And what do I need in place in order to achieve it? Do I need budget? Do I need help? What kind of hours do I need to commit to this? What kind of content do I need to be creating? So what are the resources that are going to make this achievable? And then a lot of people will make SMART goals, okay? So they'll get down to R and they'll go, right, brilliant, I've got a goal. But it's a SMART goal, it's not a SMART goal. So unless you are timely and time-bound with your goal setting, i.e. I want to achieve this by the end of the year, by the end of June, by the 14th of May, whatever, you have to put that time limit on, because at that point, you know what your limit is. You know when you hit that date, well, when you're working towards that date, you can ramp it up, right? Oh, we're not quite there yet. Our deadline's coming. Let's kind of take things up a notch. But also, you hit your deadline, right? Okay, let's reflect. Because a goal without a deadline, still, you don't quite know what you're working towards. Right? It's all still a little bit fluffy. It's all still a little bit intangible. So just remember to make your goals smart, not smart. So once you've started to sort of set some goals, you know what you're doing with your social media. We go back to a bit of that research that we were doing in early days. So we want to build an ideal client or customer avatar. Okay? Okay, show of hands. Who has got an ideal customer avatar, or some kind of picture of the type of person they want to appeal to? A couple of shy hands. Yes, okay. Anyone. Anyone with the money. Brilliant, a person. But that's what we tend to do, right? I don't want to niche myself too far. I don't need an ideal client avatar. But the danger is, if you try and speak to everyone, you end up speaking to no one. You have to be very specific with your messaging, okay? Now, you could have a couple of different avatar personas, right? That's allowed. But you need to have a sort of clarity on who you are wanting to target. So you want to try and appeal to that person. And we can think about it in singular. It is that person, okay? So what is that person's demographics, right? So what age range are they sitting in? Where do they live? What do they do professionally? And if it's that you are business to business, what does that business look like, right? What is that ideal client business avatar looking like in terms of some of these demographics, in terms of the disposable income, or in terms of the budget that they've got to spend on your product? What are the challenges of that person or that business? What are their needs, wants, desires, pain points? What are you going to speak to? What problems are you going to solve? How are you going to deliver solutions and remedies? How are you going to make their lives better? How are you going to improve their businesses? See, all of those elements give you points for messaging, give you ways to reach this person or this business. How do they interact with social media? So typically, do you have an ideal customer that is currently interacting with you? How are they interacting with you? Right? We can use this insight from our early audit to give us a bit of a framework for kind of making assumptions on what our ideal client avatar is going to look like and be doing. So how do they interact with social media? What social activities should be used to reach them? Where do you need to be? What platform do you need to be on? How do you need to be interacting with them? What kind of hashtags do you need to be using? Are they using stories, or do they go to the grid posts? Are they a DMer? All of these little things. And again, we can make those assumptions, right? Because we're building this picture. None of this is set in stone. Okay, this is all changeable, and this is the very nature of social media, is that it's ever evolving, it's ever changing. So your ideal avatar will be constantly changing, will be constantly evolving as you learn more about them, okay? You can review, refine, and tweak this. So it's not set in stone, it's not the be-all and end-all. But then we want to think about, again, looking inwards, brand tone of voice, okay? So your social media should outline the look and sound of your brand, and it should feel very authentic. And authenticity is something that I'm going to come on to again in a moment. But you need to think about how you are identifying and transmitting and sort of translating and communicating these elements. So your brand voice, what does it stand for? What does it sound like? What kind of words would you use to describe your brand voice? What kind of grammar would you use? How would you be constructing captions? Because, and all of this kind of comes in line with if you are starting to outsource elements like your social media. Someone taking over your social media needs to be able to speak in your brand voice. So what are those guidelines that they can use? So your grammar, your terminology, words or phrases that you like to use, words or phrases that you avoid using, okay? Define these remits. And think about your post formatting. So, and again, this might change, but what does a typical post look like for you? What do you want a typical post to look like? Is it long form or short form captions? Is it visual graphics? Is it a certain type of photography? What are the guidelines that allow you to communicate effectively your brand voice and what you stand for? Are you using hashtags? Do you use hashtags within a post? Do you put them at the end? Do you have your own hashtag for encouraging that community involvement? So you've got a hashtag that you encourage clients to use when they're styling up your product, or you've got a hashtag that you kind of encourage purchasers and customers to use when they are showing your product in situ. Because all of this encourages that conversation, right? It's all about building that audience and that network around you. So think about hashtags and visual guidelines. So what does your social media look like? What are your brand colors? Is everything on point with that? What style of photography are you using? So all of this is kind of how you transmit what you stand for to your audience and how effectively you do it. And then I want you to think about content pillars. What's a content pillar? So this is just the type of content that you are putting out on social media. And a very, very simple rule to follow is the rule of thirds, okay? So you can drill further into these thirds and get quite specific, right? I'm going to do a series of posts that educate my audience. I'm going to do a series of posts that are going to inspire my audience. I'm going to do a series of posts that are how to use my product. But ultimately, 1/3 can promote your brand. It is not all about promoting your brand. It's about giving value, but you're allowed 1/3 to be promoting your brand, your offer, your product. 1/3 could be reshares. So this could be of user-generated content, your customers, your clients, basically creating visuals for you to reshare to show how brilliant you are and how engaged your audience is. And 1/3 could focus on sharing helpful, insightful, valuable educational content. Okay, so that is the part about adding value to your audience. So then you can think about what kind of content will fall into these categories. But I would say, so this is how I like to think of content, is I think about it like my audience have got a piggy bank, okay? Now, the more value I can give to them, that's like me popping money in their piggy bank, okay? Like, oh, I'm giving you this value. Oh, I'm giving you a how-to. Oh, I'm showing you how to do this. So they're going, oh, my piggy bank. Oh, the coffers are building, right? I'm getting value. The goodwill's building. They then take that goodwill that I have given them through social and they spend it, okay? So if I'm building, I'm doing sort of 70-75% value-driven content. When I go into promo, they go, yeah, do you know what? I'll give her that. So it's just about sort of building that goodwill, giving the value so that it's not all about selling. You're creating that two-way dynamic and engagement with your audience. Think about it as filling their piggy bank, okay? So this also, in terms of your content, this is where understanding your goals and your positioning will really, really help. Because I don't know about you, but it's certainly, I have this, and clients and a lot of people that I work with, they'll have these moments, right, where they'll come to me and they'll go, I don't know what to write about. I've used all my photos. I don't know what to share on social. But actually, the process then is revisiting what they stand for. Revisit your goals. Revisit what's important to you. Revisit that messaging. Revisit your library of content, okay? Just because you've shared all your photos doesn't mean you can't go back and share them again, right? You can repurpose content. But the point is that with all of this activity, you're not starting from a blank page. That is the worst place to be when you feel like you're starting at a blank page. Give yourself starting points by building your photo library, by understanding what you need to be delivering to your client, by understanding what they want from you, by treating social media as a two-way street. So think about the type of content you could be creating within these pillars. It might be video, it might be photography, it might be graphics, it might be user-generated content, it might be live video. It could be anything, but keep your pillars in mind. And then I want you to think about the budget, tactics, and tools required, okay? So this is like the actionable in our SMART goals. So what do you need in place? Now, budgets will differ hugely, and as you very rightly pointed out, social media is free, okay? You can use it very, very well without needing a budget. You can use it very well organically. But in terms of seeing it as part of your marketing mix, typically a brand could be looking to spend between 5 and 15% of their annual revenue on marketing. Okay, so you've got to continue that output, because if you're not constantly reminding people, hey, I'm here, this is what I do, they go elsewhere, they drop off, they forget about us, okay? So think about how you can allocate budget. And it might be that you want to allocate budget to creating content, right? Budget on photography or videography. Paid social media promotions. It might be working with influencers. It might be on social media management tools. It might be on community engagement tools. It might be on analytics. But have a think about how you are going to use your resources in order to achieve those goals that we've set. And then there's no point in having goals and objectives if we're not tracking and reviewing them, okay? We need to know if they're working, right? If our activity is paying us dividends, because otherwise something's not right. We need to tweak. So the last step of your social media strategy is this kind of track and review notion. Now, there are millions of interactions through social media every second. And actually, although a lot of businesses, well, every business understands the power of social media, 25% of businesses have no method in place for tracking the success of their activity, okay? So it can be really, really simple. Just set yourself some KPIs at the beginning of this process. What are you looking to achieve? Go back to your SMART goals. How are your analytics and your insights showing your success? How are they reflecting your performance? What do you need to change? How can you evolve what you're doing? So, and as I said, there's a lot of questions, right? I've suggested a lot of questions that you ask yourself about your social media and about where you are and about where you want to get to. But thinking strategically through this process is so important, because otherwise it's a scattergun approach. You don't know where you're going, you don't know how you're going to get there. Oh, just try a bit of this, try a bit of that. And we waste time doing it, okay? In social media, it's like this vortex. Once you get sucked into it, you goodness knows where the time's gone. So be strategic about this activity. And I mentioned authenticity when talking about brand values. And it cannot be underestimated, okay? It is a very competitive world, very competitive environment. We need to stand out. How do we stand out? Is by harnessing what makes us unique as a business, as entrepreneurs, right, as brands. So some of this will have started to come through when you're thinking about your audit, when you're doing your strategic planning. But again, I'm going to throw some questions at you. So what do you stand for as a brand? What are your brand values? What is your purpose? What do you exist to do and achieve as a brand? Do you have a mission when it comes to sustainability? Do you have a mission to fill the world with colour? Do you have a mission to do things in a different way? What makes your brand unique? What is your authenticity? What is that sort of secret sauce that you've got that makes you different? What is your tone of voice? What is your style constant? What is your aesthetic? What will be your calling card? So the ideal is that someone will see your image or they'll come across your social media and they won't need to see your branding to go, oh yes, that's them, right? So is it an irreverent humour in your tone of voice? Is it an unapologetic love of bold colour or pattern or print or gloriousness? Is it an enduring love of neutrals, of tactile textures or sort of natural tones? How can you create authentic content that speaks to and of your brand? So think about it as that sort of line, that constant thread that runs through everything. So if we look at a couple of examples, so here we've got IKEA, right? And you probably guessed that from the photography. IKEA are an everyman brand, okay? Now, not everyone can or will want to be an everyman brand, but that everyman archetype has allowed them to define their positioning in the market, okay? And I think we can all agree that IKEA have really defined their position in the market. So an everyman brand promises belonging, relatability and realism. I think IKEA do that, right? Tick. So it's often pretty easy to spot an IKEA advert, image or promo. So they call themselves straightforward, innovative, creative and common sense problem solvers. And I think we see the essence of that translated very well in every respect across their website, their social media, any kind of owned media space. Words that people will associate with IKEA might include fun, different, offbeat, friendly, quirky, caring. Now, they're a big budget brand, okay? They've got the money and the sort of the budget to throw at this positioning. But there's a lot that we can learn from them in terms of how consolidated and how cohesive this positioning is. You know, it's the value of authenticity and owning what you stand for, embodying what you stand for, and kind of being true to that. And then another example, so probably on the other end of the scale, would be a brand like Soho Home, okay? So they call themselves, quote, a modern interiors brand designed for relaxed, sociable living. So this is anchored in exclusivity, but it's also speaking to a creative audience, okay? So they know their positioning through and through. Everything they do is tied into this positioning. So this is all about, Soho Home is about sharing the Soho House way of living. It's sharing the Soho House concept that has built as a direct result of popularity. They've got 30 plus global houses of the Soho House Members Club. Now, you don't have to be a member to get a piece of this sort of luxury lifestyle, right? To get a piece of this aesthetic, this lust-worthy Soho House concept, because Soho Home offers the opportunity. But it still does it in a very exclusive way, okay? So that's their brand positioning. So in terms of words that could be associated, they're very different to IKEA. Luxurious, decadent, exclusive, premium, curated, desired, sought after. You know, very, very different vibe, okay? What word associations do you want to give people when they interact with your brand? What connotations do you want them to be taking away with them? How do you want your brand to be perceived by your audience? What are going to be your defining markers, right? You know, whether it's more IKEA or more Soho Home or finding your authentic way, it's kind of, you know, wherever you fall on the spectrum. But think about what you want to leave people with, okay? And then in terms of being authentic, we also want to think about how that translates visually, okay? So social media, whatever platform we're on, it is so heavily visual, okay? So visual creativity for the win. So it's very easy for social media to feel saturated. As I've said, you know, it's a very competitive space. We need to find ways to sort of set ourselves apart. So to find your own visual style, to tap into your visual creativity as a brand, this visual style can become a very distinctive trademark that will set you apart, okay? So like we said with IKEA, you can recognize an IKEA photo, right? From the type of styling, the type of product. how can you emulate that kind of distinctive visual in your own brand style? So it might be how you style something that becomes your trademark. It might be this humorous juxtaposition, or you play with unlikely props or materials. It might be an irreverent backdrop that you keep going back to, or a sort of funky style of flat lay that you do that you become known for. It might be a certain type of lighting, a certain type of photography, a certain type of maybe distinctive location. But you will find ways to create visual markers for yourself that will start to become visual calling cards. So, as I said, whether on Instagram, Pinterest, TikTok, even LinkedIn now, visual creativity is increasingly important, okay? And nailing what is authentic to you in terms of visual will help you stand out. And on that point, investing in quality photography is always going to pay off. Okay, so whether that's for use across your website, use across your social media, use across any kind of public relations activity, you will never regret investing in photography. Okay, it's a really, really important part of staking your claim in terms of finding your space in the market, in terms of connecting with your audience. It's part of building that rapport and that trust with your audience, because you value what you're pitching and what you're selling enough to invest in how you showcase it, right? So if you're showcasing here, you're showing that you value your product and your offer, that you're happy to invest in how you showcase it. Your photography is the same, and your audience will pick up on that. But what that great photography will do is it will showcase your visual style. Your audience will then reciprocate, okay? So I've mentioned user-generated content. Once you are very specific and very kind of style-led in terms of your visual creativity, your audience will start to reciprocate. They're savvy, okay? Social media users, clients, customers are savvy. They know that once they have a true understanding of what your brand is visually about, they can start to emulate that. Whether it's using your product in situ, whether it's as a sort of B2C, as a customer styling up your product, or as a client, a commercial client that's sort of creating their own space and they're actually kind of nodding to how you've styled something perhaps. But all of this respect of your audience, they will start paying you back because they will be creating content for you that is on tone with your visual. So it's almost like they help you build that visual bank, because that is 1/3 of the rule of thirds, user-generated content, reshares, bringing your audience into your brand experience and kind of, thanking them for being part of it. So it kind of helps you do your job if you're really, really clear from the outset. It will make life easier for you. I mean, who doesn't want that, right? So it's stamping that visual style will really help in many ways. And we've got to video, right? Love it, loathe it. A lot of people loathe it, but like watching it, but hate the thought of creating it. It feels like quite a contentious one, but it's something that is not going away. We need to get to grips with it, right? So video content is one of the most engaging forms of content on social media. It's dominating social media, quite honestly. So we only need to look at recent platform developments. I mean, we thought LinkedIn was immune from this sort of infiltration of video. It's not, right? We had Instagram stories, then Facebook followed, then Pinterest followed, and then LinkedIn followed with LinkedIn stories. There is no escaping from video, so we need to learn to live with it and embrace it. So one point of good news, right? If you're on Instagram and you're video adverse, carousels are still working really well, okay? So if you want to stem the tide a little bit longer, keep going with your carousels, because once you can capture your audience and then get them sliding through this carousel graphics, that signals to Instagram's algorithms that your content is interesting and relevant and engaging for your audience. So Instagram still likes that. But we have to get onto video. There are many ways to pander to the need for video on these platforms without selling your soul or spending a fortune on videography. Yay, good news. Video's not going anywhere, okay? Let's look at Instagram Reels. I mean, any kind of video content will hit the mark, but if we look at Instagram Reels, because that is, where the Instagram gods / algorithm are having the most fun at the moment, Reels are not only quick, they can be quick, but when they're done right, they can be hugely, hugely impactful. Now, if your strategic goal and objective is to increase your visibility on Instagram and to increase your following, Reels is the solution. So you need to be making that short form video content that is going to grab attention of people that aren't yet following you. And what Instagram is doing a lot with Reels is that it's pushing those Reels and that content onto the Explore page, onto that Reels feed. So actually, that is the best way to get in front of an audience that is not yet following you, i.e. the best way to grow your audience. So there are many, many different starting points, okay? So I would say, ask your audience. Right, this is allowed, okay? You can ask your audience on stories. You can, just put the question out there as a call to action. What do you guys like to see in Reels? What Reels do you enjoy watching? What Reels do you find inspiring? Use that as your starting point. Do a bit of research. What are your competitors doing, right? In that kind of benchmarking, not comparing, what are they doing? How are they using video? How is it working for them? And then start to think about what kind of structure you're going to have to your Reels. Are you going to do a series of Reels? Are you going to do an educational series of video content? Is it going to be short, snappy reviews of your day, of your week, or behind the scenes, or whatever? So, for example, today, at the moment, a lot of my content is geared towards a new course launch. So it's about teaching business owners to get more visible. So what I've done today is I've just started taking video content, right? I had my video on when I came in here, had my video on when I walked around, had my video on when I came to the stage, taking a few selfies. I'm just building my bank of content. I don't know what it's going to look like yet, but I know that if I have the video content, I can do something with it. So it's almost like sort of switching into a different way of approaching your day, right? Just start filming everything like you're a Kardashian. But, it's just to create these banks of content so that you can then get creative in terms of making up these little video reels. Whether it's a little montage, whether it's a behind the scene, whether it's a how-to, they don't have to be labor intensive. They don't have to be expensive. The real functionality in terms of like the tool on Instagram is constantly improving. It's making it easier to use and easier to create content. But if you want something that is an interface outside of Instagram, InShot is one that I use for kind of, splicing content together and creating a fun little video. And, absolutely there's a lot to be said for kind of tracking trends in audio and, tracking trends in what's going on in Reels, what's going viral. But, if we do that, we risk straying from our authentic thread, right? From our brand voice, from what makes us us. So I would start with a kind of an inward perspective in terms of what content do you want to create, and then how can you create it in a way that will engage your audience, that will appease the Instagram gods and the algorithm, okay? So please, please, please do give video a go. It's great fun. And then the thing that sort of pulls it all together, right? Customer experience is the success formula. This is the secret sauce. Okay, we've looked at all the other elements. We've looked at being strategic. We've looked at how we're going to create content. We've looked at how we're going to use the platform to best promote what we do. But social media has added brilliantly to the notion of customer experience. Okay, it's consolidated. It's allowed us to bring everything together. It's a platform that, as I said at the beginning, has such broad scope in terms of its usability and the purposes that it serves. So this customer experience is something that can easily be lost when we're focusing on our content, when we're focusing on our goals. But as I've already said, that two-way engagement with your audience, they're humans at the other end, right? They're humans that we want to connect with, that we want to be having conversations with, that we need to be having conversations with, because those relationships are going to be what sustains our business and what grows it. So it's really, really important to focus on sort of how you listen to your audience and how you engage with them. Social media is a retail platform. It's a discovery platform. It's a search engine. It's a customer service platform because you can have those conversations on there. And online shoppers want to do business with brands that can provide them with high quality products, but that will also engage with them authentically, that will want to serve them to the best of their ability, that will want them to have the best customer experience, that will want them to feel fulfilled and happy and satisfied at every point on that customer journey. So it's really, really important as to how you can use social media to help you do that. Is that, yes, it's a one-to-many platform, right? We can speak to hundreds, thousands of people with one post, okay? It's one-to-many, but every number is a person. So we need to think about how we have those one-to-one interactions as well. Marketing is a two-way street. It is about those conversations and connections, because those relationships will breed sales, okay? So this is all about those goals, but how we get there in a very human way. So consider how you can interact and engage with your audience, but how you can serve them, okay? How easy can you make it for them to experience your brand and your product and what you have to offer? So on Pinterest, for example, right, to maximize that customer experience, it might be shorter product names, price tags, hyperlinks will make it easier for for your audience to become customers, to transition through that journey. Facebook and Instagram, if relevant, make sure that you've got the shopping functionality activated so that you can share your products, but so that others can share your products. If you're doing any influencer engagement or collaborations, you want them to have the functionality to share your product directly with their audience, okay? So Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, they're constantly evolving. Yes, it's quite difficult to keep up with, but it's really, really important to just benchmark. What are other people doing? Have you fallen behind? How can you push forward? Oh, they're doing this, right? Let me see if I can get that working as well. But ultimately, consider those real conversations. So I've spoken about calls to action, right? How you engage your audience. Don't post and ghost, okay? Don't post something and then go, brilliant, my job's done. Because you want to encourage that engagement. And if people are engaging, don't leave them there in that sort of ether. They're people that you can have discussions with. They're people that might turn into clients or customers. Engage with them. So respond to any DM. Respond to any comment. Even if it's just an emoji, respond with an emoji. But don't let anyone feel like they are speaking to no one. Don't give anyone the impression that you don't want to connect with them. Because why are we on social media in the first place if we don't want to connect with people? That's what the platform's for. So think about what calls to action are you using. Are you using interaction in your stories? Are you using the question box? Are you using polls? Are you going, slide into my DMs and, let's chat about this, or ask away, ask any questions? Are you encouraging that? Are you calling for user-generated content, right? If relevant, if you are, especially if you're direct to consumer, are you calling for your audience to share their purchases, to use your hashtag to connect with you in that way? Are you getting your quota in for that 1/3 of user-generated content and reshares? Encourage interaction at every stage of the customer journey. So they jump on your website, encourage them to follow on social, encourage them to connect with you, encourage them to sign up to your mailing list for a discount. When they purchase, send something with their purchase that says, follow us on social, share your purchase, use the hashtag, use our handle. Every stage, think about how that can become a conversation. Think about how that can become a two-way interaction, because otherwise we are just putting our messaging out into the void and we have no idea how that's landing. Okay, we need that insight from our audience. And you can really soften the tone of voice as well to show your human side. Yes, within the tone of it being kind of on brand, but 90% of online shoppers say that authenticity is important for brands. It's one of the things that they look for. Okay, so this is why it was one of my key things that I was speaking about earlier. And that needs to show by you having a true passion for supporting your customer, for supporting your audience, for nurturing your audience, for giving them the value, for giving them the insight, bringing them into your world, and really supporting how they experience your brand. So on that point also is your story is unique. Okay, so in talking about authenticity, what makes you you? Okay, what is your essence? Because everyone has a unique story in terms of their entrepreneurial journey, or in terms of their business journey, in terms of their brand, that is a unique point of messaging. It's a unique way to market your business. And think about it this way, is story tell, don't sell. Yes, you're allowed a certain amount of promotional content out on social media, but how can you tell stories? Because that is one of the elements that is really going to connect an audience to you. We love to hear stories. We love to tell stories. We love to feel like we're part of a story. So how can you bring your audience kind of in on that part of the process? And I think if you follow that principle of delivering value, of storytelling, of finding your visual niche, of being truly authentic, and internally knowing strategically where you are and where you want to get to and how you're going to get there, then social media will be an incredible, powerful tool for your business success. It will help you to get to where you need to be. So that is social media in a nutshell-ish. Thank you so much for listening. I hope it's given you some real value and insights and some actionable takeaways. And there's time for questions, hopefully.
Yeah, we've got all the time in the world. Does anyone have anything they would like to ask Fiona? Well, you'll be sticking around, I think, for a while anyway. I know sometimes people don't always want to put their hands up, so by all means, come and grab Fiona afterwards. But I think that was really insightful.
Brilliant.
So join me in saying thank you to Fiona. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you so much.